Hi, it's Dave. Welcome. Today I'm joined by Matt Holm. He is a realtor, a top 10 realtor in the Austin area. He's also the president of the Austin Tesla Club. And I'm also joined by Anuarbek. He is the vice president of Austin Tesla Club and a realtor who's working with Matt. And today's focus of discussion is going to be on Austin and Tesla's role in Austin as well. Elon Musk has tweeted a lot about Austin, their great need for housing. Tesla's looking to hire 10,000 people through 2022 in Austin. Austin perhaps is one of the hottest real estate markets in the entire country. And in this interview video, I kind of want to do a deep dive into what's going on in Austin. How has it changed in the past year or two? And how is Tesla making an impact? So I want to welcome you, Matt and Anuarbek, to the channel.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Awesome, man. Great. So what can you tell us about Austin? I mean, is Austin the hottest market in the entire country? I mean, has it cooled down at all in the past couple of months? What's going on like in the past, let's say 6 months? Can you explain it to those in the US, but also around the world, what's happening?
Sure. We have the reputation for being Silicon Hills already, but I would describe us in the past as being more, I don't want to say tech light, but we were customer service and a lot of support. What's gone on in the last probably year and a half is we're creating roughly, by my count, 6 million square feet of office space for tech. And we're starting to see engineer teams and C-suite coming this direction. So the zeitgeist shift has been a transformative from Oracle, and there's a number of other names I think that'll be coming soon that have yet to announce that are in the pipeline, and they're bringing really the whole team. And so Tesla sort of adds fuel to the fire, but we've had for quite a while 1 million square feet with Apple. They're building a second million square feet. Google's building a 35-story tower in downtown for all software engineer teams. Oracle moved their headquarters here. A number of places I know right now that are not announcing, but will be soon. And so what we're seeing is a robust increase, and I wouldn't even go back 6 months. I'd go back to middle of January. We have seen a 30 to 40% increase in home values across Austin in an extremely short period of time. I think what happened is we probably rolled over to final quarter into first quarter, and a lot of these, hey, we're coming out of COVID. When you get back to the office, you will be reporting to Austin letters went out because my relo business went from 10 to 15% of my business to over 50%, the bulk of which is Silicon Valley. And the price points that they're purchasing here are definitely at the very highest level of our housing pricing. So really the last 3 months have been dramatic, and we haven't even finished building. We're going to finish building that 6 million square feet of office space over the next probably 36 to 48 months. So it hasn't even been filled yet. So these are really people that are the advanced charge that are, coming out of COVID, feel comfortable to make the move, and I think are leading the beginning of sort of a tidal wave that's coming this direction. And Elon and Musk Industries are sort of the icing on top, the cherry on top at this point, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are kind of in the midst of a lot of crazy changes in Austin with the market and housing, especially, carrying the volume that you guys do. Anuarbek, how has your experience been in the past, let's say 6 months with Austin, the market, housing? Has it surprised you what's going on there?
Definitely. I joined Matt a couple of years ago. We actually met through the Tesla Owners Club about 4 or 5 years back. So I've been in real estate for a few years, and I keep checking back to Matt saying, is this normal? Like what we've seen in the last few months? But definitely, I think COVID was the major inflection point. Pre-COVID, Austin was a growing market. Like what Matt was saying, there's a lot of like tech light. So there's Google's presence. Google has a presence, Apple, a lot of the major tech companies, but they were kind of like secondary roles like HR and all that. But after COVID, I think we've definitely seen a massive inflection point. And I think the tip of the spear is definitely what Elon and Tesla is bringing to Austin, Oracle as well. I think we saw a while back, Elon was meeting with, what's his name, the founder of Oracle, Ellis. So I don't know what those guys have planned, but I'm sure there are major plans for Austin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. What do you think is the whole impetus behind all of this? So, you have this dramatic kind of shift in the view of Austin. Now it's become a super desirable area for people to move in, but for a lot of tech companies and a lot of people just to move into the area. What caused that shift from just Austin to be kind of like an interesting small hip city now to become kind of a centerpiece for a lot of companies to move. Like, what was that, you think, that tipping point or that turning point?
I think it comes to quality of life, cost of real estate really up until now. I know Elon internally asked quite a few people within Tesla and his companies, if you had to choose one place that you could go to anywhere in the country to move to, pick it. And Austin apparently won by a landslide as far as quality of life, cost of living. Just we have a vibrant city. We got a great music scene. We have a great art scene. We have a great tech, a hub here already that sort of created an infrastructure that now can kind of blossom and come to full fruition. And then I think COVID also, people realized, hey, I can really do my job from anywhere. If I can get a house that cost me 1/4 of what it would where I live now, I have no commute time. I've got plenty of water, and it's very green here. There's tons to do in a very kind of small location. We're also not the sprawl of LA with 15 million people. We're 2 million in the greater Austin area, really 50 miles around. So it's a negotiable city. It feels like a small town. And so I've heard someone describe it as Austin's a really cool neighborhood. And when you come here, you kind of get that sense like people are extremely warm and welcoming. And I think all of that comes in when people come in typically for South by or ACL. They come obviously at the shoulder season, so the weather's not too bad either. So they're coming at an ideal time. They're also feeling kind of the general vibe, and people open doors for you. They're friendly. They want to tell you about a cool place to go to. It's very much a welcoming town, and it's grown really since the 90s. It was about 500,000 people. So really, if you think back to where we are now, 3/4 of those people didn't live here originally. So people came here from somewhere else oftentimes and are welcoming and wanting to show off Austin. And so I think all those factors make it highly desirable. And then the real estate, even still, as much as we've seen in increases, I think is still definitely affordable in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely a balance between, like, we call it a blueberry in the middle of a red tomato soup. Texas as a state is amazingly business friendly, and the vibe in Austin is kind of similar to what people experience in, I think, like LA or the Bay Area. So I think that's what draws. It's the livability. It is an amazing place to live, but why does Elon care to move most of Musk Industries to Texas? I think it's because of the friendly business environment.
Mm-hmm. Like, what do you mean by friendly business environment? I mean, is it taxes? Is it just less regulation? Because it seems like Elon is, he's moved himself. Tesla's setting up right there, huge factory in Austin. It seems like SpaceX might be setting up office. I think Boring Company has their headquarters here next to Austin. Is Neuralink? Do you know anything about Neuralink? Are they setting? I've heard that they had some job listings in Austin or something. Is everything coming to Austin for Musk Industries?
Anuarbek, do you want to answer that?
We have NDAs with Tesla, so I don't know how much detail we can get into, but it seems like a lot of what you said is true. Like, it's more than just Tesla.
Yeah, sure.
I can just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's fascinating because at first it seems like Elon, he did the survey. Austin came up on top. They decided to build the city, but then it seems like Elon's going all in. Like, he's saying, I'm going to bring in, all my companies. I want to really make this, a base, a home. What do you think? And this is purely speculation. Is there anything about Austin you think that's drawing Elon particularly? Like, is it the business atmosphere? Is it the taxes? Is it the culture? Is it, what is it about Austin, you think?
I think it's probably all of those things. Obviously, not having a state tax is huge. Being in the center of the country and specifically where he is at the Gigafactory, he's 3 minutes from a private jet on the east side of the airport that's right there. So he can fly anywhere in the country. And it's the beautiful part about Austin is you can be anywhere in the country in less than 2.5 hours in either coast. So it makes it very accessible. Brownsville, his new Cape Canaveral, right, is a few hours south of us. Waco has the testing facility for all the rockets for SpaceX. 35 connects, interstate that connects everything. We've got great rail systems. We've got a world-class port, Houston, that's 3 hours away if you're going to send over to South America or the East Coast. It makes sense for livability, for business. it checks a number of boxes. And then you've got a great local tech population, which means you've got all these big tech companies that he can draw from. I mean, I think he actually got quite a few of the engineers that worked on the autopilot from AMD that's local here. So there's a lot of things that are a natural fit with tech, and to be able to attract those people and keep them here. If you were to hire somebody from London or Silicon Valley or Seattle, and you give Austin as a name, I know people in hiring departments across industries here, and they always get the person on a plane. It's not a problem. And so you can't, it's hard to put your finger on it. We're not the prettiest city. We don't have a coast. The summers kind of suck. I mean, it's warm. But there's a soul to the city that's hard to describe, and people that come here, I think, want to replicate that. And there's just a very easygoing vibe where you feel like you can kind of take a breath and you're not running the rat race, but there's still vibrancy, there's still a ton happening, and you feel connected to all of that. And I mean, I know it's kind of ephemeral, but that's sort of my thought. I think it's a lot to do with it.
And I think the center of what Elon's thinking has to do with talent as well. Not only is there a lot of talent already in Austin by the other tech companies, and I think these people will most likely try to come to Tesla or SpaceX and other companies, but there's University of Texas at Austin. It's one of the top public schools. It's right there within Austin. We've got Texas A&M University, Rice University. So within Texas, within just a couple-hour drive, is some of the top universities in the nation. So I think that has something to do with it. Matt and I were involved kind of behind the scenes when Tesla, while they were making that decision. The two finalists were Austin, Texas, and Oklahoma City. And we know for a fact that Oklahoma really wanted Tesla to be there, right? So they threw the kitchen sink as far as tax credits and all these it definitely, from a financial standpoint, it would have made way more sense for Tesla to go to Oklahoma, from what I understand. But Elon still chose Austin. I think it's because of the livability. He wanted his employees that are going to come to basically have an amazing life, but also work at one of the top companies in the world.
As the Tesla Club, we really got behind making him feel welcome as well, and so I think that helped. And there was a lot that went on kind of behind the scenes on getting the commissioners to work with Tesla, and it was closer than people think, I think.
I mean, what's the deal with Tesla not letting people buy Tesla cars in the state? I mean, you have to purchase it online, get it registered, I guess, out of state, and then transfer the registration. And even in the midst of this crazy law, that doesn't let Tesla sell direct, Elon still chooses to, move himself, his companies to Texas. I mean, what's going on? I mean, you guys are, longtime Tesla or Texas, residents and Tesla fans. What's is this going to change anytime soon? Is there legislation to change this? What's kind of the latest on that?
Tesla's behind that since 2013. That's when I sat behind Elon for, all day at hearings, giving testimony. And I thought we'd have a win for sure in 13, and then again in 15, and then again in 17. And then in 19, they're like, oh, it's not quite doing what we want to do. And then this year, I'm not sure how the workaround. I think it forced Elon to be creative in how he delivered the vehicles. And I don't think not using a dealership model has created such a bottleneck. In Texas in particular, it came as a protectionist for the little guy. Back in the post-World War, or pre-World War, during the Depression, you had car manufacturers couldn't afford to put all their inventory out and create dealerships that they owned. And so they gave it to franchise dealerships. Post-World War, when there was a boom, then the car manufacturer said, wait, we'll skip the middleman. We're going to go ourselves to these places and set up our own direct sales places. And so they put in protectionist things in the 50s to protect the little guy. Well, now you go decades ahead, and the little guy is no longer the little guy. They're the big dealership network that is very much protective of basically their little niche. But the problem is, when Elon came out, you add another 20% dealer markup to an already pricey car you're trying to get people to write a check for. That's a pretty difficult proposition. And I think realistically, what he's done with the online sales is not hindering sales at all. And so I don't know specifically, are they going to build our Cybertruck, ship it around to another state and bring it back to me? I hope not. I don't think it'll be necessary. Will it be registered and purchased in another state and they send out the registration to me and then I re-register it here? It adds an extra step. There are expediters you can pay to take care of that if you want to. So, not the end of the world, but certainly not the easiest solution.
Mm-hmm. Elon was tweeting about Austin saying that, there's a housing shortage. There's a desperate need to build housing in Austin. What's going on? Is there a real housing shortage in Austin? Is there low supply? And if there is, what's the causes of this low supply?
So last year, I believe new construction was about 37,000 houses, but we had close to 200 people a day relocating here. So we were basically about a half to a third of what we actually needed. And that's assuming that we have some type of movement within Austin. Anecdotally, I'll tell you, my clients in Austin that are selling are usually moving up, moving down, moving across. They're not moving to move out of the area because they want to move somewhere else. It's very atypical to get a client selling and going, I'm going to San Francisco or LA or New York. It just doesn't really happen here very often. And so you kind of have a closed system already. COVID came and people all of a sudden decided to right size within the city. Hey, I need a second office. I need a pool. I'm going to do it right now. And so a lot of internal shifting happened. And then I think we got into January of this year and a lot of announcements came through that brought tens of thousands of jobs moving here over the next couple of years that got announced at that point, probably internally, and all of a sudden turned on the floodgates. And so we absolutely have a housing shortage. There are still opportunities. There are definitely pockets where I think investment makes sense. And there's definitely ways to get at some of that inventory that are a little creative. But yes, do we have a housing shortage? 100%. I feel like, and I use this example, we're in Silicon Valley in 1999. Things are coming, they're on the uptick, but they're not nearly what they are today. And then that was sort of the beginning of the housing kind of shortage there. And I think we're at that same kind of tidal waves coming, and we're about here on the wave, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me a bit about of West LA a bit. Specifically, there's an area south of Santa Monica called Venice, and it's typically kind of it wasn't the greatest area, let's say 20 years ago. And, you had a lot of software companies, tech companies move into West LA area. You had the whole, Silicon Beach thing going on, startups. And then all of a sudden, Venice became hip and cool. And you had this reset of the values in that area where, property prices just quickly doubled and stuff. And it seems like in some ways something happened or is happening right now with Austin where there's a reset in people's minds, that they're valuing Austin differently than they did before. Before is kind of, it's a Texas city, it's hip and cool and stuff, but it's not Manhattan or LA or whatever, Silicon Valley or whatever. But now you've got this re-rating in a sense, that's a stock term, but where it's people are valuing it differently. They're wait a minute, this is, Austin just jumped, a level up. What can Tesla do to deal with, housing shortages for there are tens of thousands of employees eventually that will be, coming into Austin. Do they just hope that the market will, create more housing? Or does Tesla somehow need to get proactively involved somehow in, helping create those housing?
Anuarbek, you want to jump there?
Yeah, so Tesla was thinking about this ahead of time. Even when Elon announced the Gigafactory site months and months ago, they'd reached out to Matt and I to start brainstorming because they saw the writing on the wall that, hey, if we're hiring 10,000, 20,000, 25,000 people over the next few years, where are we going to house them? And right now, there are a lot of developments that are starting off in the east side where Tesla is. The area is called Del Valley. It's very close to the airport. It's the intersection of two highways, 71 and 130. So in that area, Tesla bought over 2,200 acres. It's almost like a massive city, but within a one square mile radius, there really aren't a whole lot of housing developments. But those are being constructed now to try to compensate for the hiring spree that's about to happen with Tesla.
And the challenge is really getting these developers, soup to nuts from breaking dirt to delivering product. And so there's a lot of conversations going on to build thousands of homes, but you're looking at probably the closest in 6 months out to about 18 months on delivery times. It does ramp up, and I think third and fourth quarter for Tesla this year are going to be some big hiring periods, but really 22, 23 24 are going to be huge as well. I think at full capacity, you're going to see 25 or 30,000 people. And that really is like a city in one location. And so the housing by that time, hopefully will be robust enough. Anuarbek and I have engaged with probably 8 different developers locally here, just on our own, just trying to figure out, hey guys, you don't understand what's coming. We're trying to help you. Let's figure out what we can do to deliver these, because it's really a short fuse. And so the challenge also is, and it needs to be a price point that can be, this is what's needed. We need X amount of square footage, X amount of bedrooms and baths, and this price point. That's what's going to, make this thing pop. And so it's going to be a slightly different than the normal way that you see kind of a suburb blossom, right? This is going to be like add water, instant neighborhood. It's customized for exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So a few years ago when I joined Matt, he teach me all this stuff about real estate. But basically, there's a saying in Austin: "West is best," meaning west side of Austin. This the hill country, great schools. You have nice views because of the rolling hills. But recently, I was telling him, I'm like, dude, I'm pretty sure like Elon and Tesla just changed the game. There's like an inflection point that happened. So west is no longer best, but east is the beast. East side is where Tesla is expanding all this stuff, right? And I think the next 5-10 years, the most exciting projects going on is going to be, Matt used to tell our clients, drop a pin downtown and buy as close as you can. That's how generally things work. But now I feel like there's like this new energy that's happening on the east side of town, which is really cool. So just some of the projects that we know about over the next several years, I think it's going to be an exciting part, kind of close by the airport.
The Tesla factory, how big is it going to get? Is this a gigafactory, or some people are calling it like, I think Tesla even mentioned a terafactory, but when I think about terawatt, that's huge. Like, I don't understand, like, do you guys have any like ideas or thoughts on how big, how many vehicles or anything, what this factory is going to be like?
We don't know this for a fact, but I think the writing was on the wall. I'll send you an image where if you look at Tesla's land ownership worldwide, so in Beijing, Berlin, Shanghai, or not Beijing, in Shanghai, just worldwide, you can add all those and fit it within what Tesla bought in Austin. So that, from the very beginning, I think explained that Elon had way bigger plans for this than just the gigafactory. Because in the beginning, we were calling it Cybertruck Factory, right? But I think and again, I'm just speculating. I think Elon from the very get-go had plans to bring in more than just Tesla. So SpaceX, Neuralink, Boring Company, I think all this is going to be going to that area. I also think this will be the epicenter globally for the new battery cell production. What was it, the 4860s, I think? I think that's going to be massive. And they're going to be making Cybertruck, Model Y, from that area for sure, probably Model 3 as well.
Got it. It seems like Tesla is making a big bet with Austin, with their factories. Elon's pulling all of his companies in. And I think it does seem like housing, it's going crazy. I think there is some risk where it kind of becomes so expensive, where it doesn't become as attractive as before. Let's say the survey that Elon did originally, maybe a part of that attractiveness to Austin was the cost of living. But if housing continues to go up, maybe there will be some resistance. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? Do you have any kind of last insights or last words you want to share to my audience, or kind of any insights regarding Austin or Tesla? We'd love to hear from you guys.
Well, speaking to what you just said, the nice part about Austin is, yes, as you go to the center, it's getting very expensive. As you go east of the Gigafactory, and this is what Anuarbek was talking about, I'm helping people buy homes in the low 300s still, and they're within 25 to 28 minutes of the Gigafactory. So currently, we have a really, we're not landlocked, we're not locked by the ocean, we're not locked by really any major bodies of water or mountains or anything. So the expansion going east is going to be really robust, and there's there's a lot of opportunity there that I think Anuarbek's right. You use the epicenter being Gigafactory, and then that eastern expansion becomes very attractive as well. But yeah, I think we're probably at the cusp of a continued 4 to 5 year span. The only metric I'm looking at is job creation. And when you talk about the biggest companies in tech building millions of square feet here and moving, their engineer teams and C-suite here, and that story continues daily in the Austin Business Journal. As I read it, it's another announcement every day of somebody moving teams here. If that slows down, I'm concerned. But as long as we have that metric of job creation, take everything else out of the equation, it becomes a very basic mathematics supply and demand issue. And that's it. And the people that are moving here for these jobs, they're moving here with good jobs from places that typically are more expensive. And as long as that continues and we're marginally even less and the jobs are good, we've got a solid future.
Awesome.
And I'll add the place where GigaTex is located is a little bit of a different ecosystem than like Austin Central. So that's really cool because people right now, I mean, a lot of these people moving, relocating with Tesla are clients, and they're buying in cities such as Bastrop, which is about 45 minutes from downtown, but it's much closer to GigaTexas because it's on the east side. So the way we understand it today, I think 65 to 70% of those 10,000 that Elon was talking about hiring are going to be jobs, mechanics and assembly line workers working at the factory. So affordability is going to be an issue. But I think just geographically where Elon has chosen, if he'd chosen to be downtown Austin with Facebook and Google, that would have been super competitive. But the fact that he chose to build a little bit outside of town, I think is going to work in their favor. Because the way I understand it, some of these people are our clients, and what they're telling us is, I mean, people that work at Tesla. It's a very demanding job. So I've had my clients tell me, hey, 6 days out of 7, I'm basically married to the site, GigaTexas. So they don't care about being downtown or whatever. They want to be as close as possible to GigaTexas. So I'm thinking maximum like a 5-10 minute drive is going to be where people are going to want to congregate. But if you want to buy homes in the 350 to 400 range, it's very, very possible on the east side, especially going a little bit further towards Bastrop and cities like that.
Cool. Sounds great. Matt Anuarbek, I want to thank you for joining the channel, sharing with us and our audience about Austin, about Tesla's plans there. We'd love to keep in touch with you guys, see what's happening, maybe an update in a year or two. If you don't mind, I want to go ahead and extend the conversation in a kind of a part 2 where it'll be probably kind of unlisted. I'll link to the next conversation in the video description, but I kind of want to go off topic a bit. I just want to talk and chat about Austin, and I kind of want to know what's going on in terms of like the recent market trends, like as a person who lives in Austin. And so it'll be just kind of an informal conversation that I'll link to in the video description. But thanks again, and I'll link to your guys' video Twitter profiles in the video description if anyone wants to follow up with you guys. All right, thanks Matt, and thanks Anuarbek.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
All right.